You know, if you're not a fan of Judd Apatow, you can even say that you're apathetic. Judd Apatow, he's probably one of the biggest names in comedy in the last 20 years or so. After creating two cult classic TV shows, Freaks and Geeks and Undeclared, he's gone on to have a hand in plenty of major comedies. He produced many cult classic films that were big in the 2000s, including Anchorman, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and Superbad, and he's continued that success well into the 2010s with films such as Bridesmaids and The Big Sick. While he has plenty of producer credits to his name, he's also directed 6 films of his own, many of which also having gone on to become beloved comedies. And with the release of his newest film, The King of Staten Island, now's a good time to look back at all of Apatow's films. So that's what I'm going to do, ranking them from worst to best, specifically the films that he directed. So before I begin, when I say worst in this particular instance, to be clear, they're all at the very least pretty good, at least from the way I see things. I pretty much enjoyed all these movies to some degree. But hey, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into it. Judd Apatow's 6 movies ranked from worst to best. Number 6. This Is 40. A spin-off of Apatow's second movie, Knocked Up, this focuses specifically on Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann's characters from that movie. As the title suggests, they're both turning 40 and their marriage feels stressed. They're going through financial troubles and their kids are driving them up the wall. For those on the verge of a midlife crisis or already going through one, you'll definitely be able to relate to some degree for its portrayal of the monotony that one may experience the older they get. It's a very sweet film and often pretty funny. My one big complaint though is that it can often feel a bit too aimless. It runs at about 130 minutes and it takes about 45 minutes or so for it to find its focus, which I guess goes with the overall theme of the movie, feeling like you're stuck or going nowhere. But sometimes it just feels like vignettes of characters goofing off or getting into long-winded arguments, and it kinda drags things out sometimes. Still, this has an impressive cast. Both Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann are great, as is Albert Brooks and John Lithgow as their respective fathers. It's a wonderful film, and despite its faults, it's still a good time. Number 5. Funny People. I legitimately enjoyed this movie. I remember when it was first released, critics seemed to like it, but audiences despised it. And the big complaint, at least from what I personally heard, for a movie called Funny People, it's not very funny. Compelling analysis. This is another midlife crisis-themed movie with Adam Sandler as an aging comedian who finds out he has leukemia and looks back at his life and his career trying to make the most out of his remaining time. Meanwhile, he's also mentoring a younger comedian played by Seth Rogen who's trying to find his own place within the comedy world. So I will argue that, yeah, actually this is often very funny, though it does take a stark turn in the final act when Sandler tries reconnecting with his ex-fiancée played by Leslie Mann, which leads to my biggest criticism being that, yeah, it definitely runs a bit too long. It's a 2.5 hour long movie and we don't get deep into the Leslie Mann stuff until about an hour and a half in or so. Like This Is 40, it spends a lot of its time just making jokes, with a lot of throwaway scenes from famous comedians and cameos eating up a lot of the runtime. Still, overall, this is an enjoyable movie and proves that Adam Sandler can be great when he's given the right material. Number 4. The King of Staten Island. I did a full review for this one, seeing as how it was just released, so I'm gonna keep this short. But I really did enjoy this. Based on star Pete Davidson's own life, it finds him as a young man trying to take control of his future when his mom, played by Marissa Tomei, starts dating a new man, played by Bill Burr. Because, once again, this focuses on a character who feels a bit aimless in life, it kinda goes on at times, and at 130 minutes, it feels a little longer than it should have been. Start to notice a trend here? But still, this is a very good movie. This is only Pete Davidson's second leading role in a film, and he proves he can hold it down. With material so personal to him, he's at his most vulnerable here, and he knocks it out of the park. And the rest of the cast is pretty solid, with Bill Burr in particular being the other big standout. A laugh-out-loud good time, this proves that after 30 years in the comedy business, Judd Apatow still got it. Number 3. Knocked Up. While this was made at the height of when silly, raunchy, R-rated sex comedies were huge, mainly thanks to films produced by Apatow himself, this mixes in that style of humor with a much sweeter, more sentimental side. And it pays off very well, setting the stage for Apatow's style for all of his future films. Here we have Seth Rogen as a goofy, laid-back stoner, who has a one-night stand with a career-minded woman played by Katherine Heigl, which is a name I haven't heard in a while, come to think of it, and it results in an unwanted pregnancy. And now they're both dealing with that fallout. There's very much an old school opposites attract setup that goes into this. Seth Rogen's nothing but a giant goofball, while Katherine Heigl is overly serious and stuck up to a degree. And I don't think that dynamic always worked, and it feels kind of outdated anyway. And like with all the other movies on this list, it definitely feels a bit longer than it should have, running at about 2 hours and 10 minutes. But beyond all that, it's still a very good movie overall. The humor works well, and it's got a huge supporting cast, including Paul Rudd, Jonah Hill, Jason Segel, and the great Harold Ramis as Seth Rogen's father. All of them are really strong here. Plus, its look at an unplanned pregnancy and the way that one's life can be totally upended make it relatable, endearing, and a fantastic entry in modern comedy. Number 2. Trainwreck. So of all the movies that Apatow directed, this is the only one where he had no hand in the writing process. This one is solely written by Amy Schumer, and it's definitely her style more prevalent here than Apatow's. But that doesn't make it any less enjoyable. Like The King of Staten Island, this one is semi-autobiographical for Schumer, though to a much lesser degree than The King of Staten Island. Her time in college was a major inspiration for this film, with the Amy that we see here being a heavy drinking party girl who's afraid of monogamy. And having been out of the dating game for years, she finally meets a good guy, a doctor played by Bill Hader, and she now has to confront those fears. With some of the material being pulled from Schumer's own life, this is her at her most natural, making this in turn by far her best work. Plus, Bill Hader is always a comedic gem, and the chemistry between those two is excellent. And like with all of Apatow's films, this has once again a stacked supporting cast, with even LeBron James being a big standout as himself. The film is full of emotion and consistently hilarious, and for once, doesn't feel ridiculously long. How about that? And that alone makes it plenty of fun to watch again and again. And at number 1, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. First is actually the best in this case. Apatow's directorial debut is, to this day, still hilarious. And it's probably one of the finest examples of the modern-day R-rated sex comedy that we don't see all too often anymore. Though to be fair, most other films in that genre don't get it right the way this film did. Its humor may be raunchy, and admittedly, not all of it may work anymore. But one thing I will say, it never treats its characters in a mean-spirited way. Even when someone's the butt of a joke, Apatow still treats them with a level of respect not seen in all R-rated sex comedies. Here, if we see them get made fun of, we watch them process that information, give a realistic reaction, and we're able to empathize with them. And that's a big part of making characters compelling. This is especially pulled off due to a great lead performance from Steve Carell, who also co-wrote the film with Apatow. Despite some of the jokes being absolutely ridiculous, the film often showed its softer side and struck a nice balance between humor and emotion. Though when this film went for laughs, it would often shine, partially due to the fact it featured a great amount of improvised dialogue. So everyone felt natural and at ease here. One of the funniest films of the 2000s, this remains Apatow's finest work. And there we go, that's all 6 of Judd Apatow's films. Hopefully we'll see plenty more of him in the years to come. As it stands, it doesn't look like he has anything in the works according to IMDb. Though then again, with much of the film and television industry still on hold as of now, it's not like much can be done anyway. But seeing as how it took 5 years between his last 2 films, hopefully it won't be that long until we see his next directorial outing. Though if it is, I'm sure he'll be producing plenty more films and television shows in the meantime, and the laughs will keep on coming. So let me know, what's your favorite Judd Apatow movie, and what's your least favorite Judd Apatow movie? Did you agree with this list, or did you disagree with this list? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll catch you next time.